Okay, so guys, what we have here is it says Z is 4 plus 5i. It then uses what's called the conjugate, which is Z bar. Z bar equals 4 minus 5i. Remember, you just change the sign that comes in front of the I. Alright, then it goes, for question 1, it asks you to find what happens when you add them together. What happens when you add the original number and then you add it on to its conjugates. So what happens there, guys? The 5i's cancel and you're going to get 4 plus 4 equals 8. So 12 part 1 is 8. Then 12 part 2, it says, well, get the original number, which is Z, and take away its conjugate, which is Z bar. So we're going to have 4 plus 5i, take away 4 minus 5i. So that's going to come into minus 4 plus 5i. 4 plus 5i. Then 4 plus 4, I say 4 minus 4. Cancels 5i plus 5i. 10i. Not too bad, is it? And the last one, and we now do the last one, 12 part 3. It said and then said bar beside it. So what does that mean? It means multiply them, because there's nothing between the signs. So it means 4 plus 5i, I'll strike it down, and multiply by 4 minus 5i. So there you go there. And then multiply it out. 4 by 4 is 16. 4 by minus 5 minus 20i. 4 by 5i plus 20i. 5i by minus 5i. Anybody? 5i squared. Now, when you multiply a complex number by its conjugate, what always happens, and I mean always happens, is that these guys will cancel. Just double check it though. Don't make sure that one of them's a minus and the other one is a plus. Okay, don't just assume it. Make sure. And then we got 16, and what happens to this 25? Minus 25 times minus 1 plus 25. 16 plus 25? 41. Okay, did everybody get a 12 out? And question 15, guys. You're once again asked, said is minus 1 plus I. You're then asked for the conjugate. Please remember that when you're getting the conjugate, you only change the sign that comes in front of the I. It's technically minus 1i. So what does that mean for the conjugate? It means plus 1i. Okay? Now, what question 1 asked you is get the number and add it to its conjugate. So you want to get minus 1 minus 1i, and then you're going to add it on to the conjugate, which is minus 1 plus 1i. So what happens to minus 1i and plus 1i? Cancel. Then you have minus 1, which is minus 2. So that's the answer to part 15, part 1. 15 part 2 is Z minus Z bar, so it's the number minus its conjugate. So it's going to be minus 1 minus 1i. Take away bracket minus 1 plus 1i. So what happens when you multiply in by minus 1? Plus 1 and minus 1i. Minus 1 minus 1i. I don't like when they're all 1s and i's. Am I the only person? Or does that distract other people? Just for me. Minus 1 plus 1 cancels. Minus I minus 2i. Okay. So we have next then, guys, is we have after that then, guys, is part 3. Part 3 is Z multiplied by Z bar, which is going to be minus 1 minus 1i multiplied by its conjugate. If we do this properly, what happens to the middle? It'll cancel. Minus 1 by minus 1. Minus 1 by minus 1i. Minus 1i. Minus 1 multiplied by minus 1i. Plus 1i. And that's two of them just after cancelling each other out. And finally, minus 1i multiplied by 1i. So for those you might not understand, The I multiplies by the I to give you I squared. And then the minus 1 multiplies by the 1 to give you minus 1I squared. Okay guys, what's minus 1I squared then? Which is plus 1. Then 1 multiplied by what? 1 plus 1? 2. There you go.